Donk Nation, Jax and Janet, greetings and welcome to your daily dose of donkey with Gingy. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, coming to you post-draft. That's right, we just concluded the NFL 2023 draft in Kansas City because apparently Kansas City is the only city allowed to have fun with football this year. Draft, Super Bowls, all that kind of stuff. But whatever, we got Gingy, and we got a lot of fun, exciting stuff to talk about, Gingy, going on.
Let's go. Gingy in the house. Donkey, the future is now. We are putting together a squad, baby. I am feeling pretty good about what the Steelers have drafted here in this year, and loving life, Donkey, loving life.
Gingy, I think my first shout out has to go to the evil empire that is the New England Patriots because they honestly knew the Steelers at 17 probably wouldn't get either of the guys that were looking at the time, I guess. A lot of people wanted the Oregon cornerback. A lot of people wanted Broderick Jones, the last real instant plug and play, probably first round offensive tackle out there. The evil empire sitting right in front of the Jets, and they go, hey, Pittsburgh, we can still get our guy at 17. We really don't want to screw you, so all you have to do is give us like a fourth. You can move up here, and you can take Broderick Jones right before the Jets get a chance to grab him. What do you say? Aggressive Omar Khan goes out there and says, yeah, we're going to do that. And we get my personal highest upside prospect in this draft, and that's of any position. That's Broderick Jones. He's not the most polished offensive tackle, a little bit lacking there, but the dude's big, the dude's physical, the dude is just a meat grinder if you put on his tape there in Georgia, and that means he did it against top competitions, against the Alabamas, the Tennessees of the world last year, just shutting down those premier pass rushers. I mean, Harris Johnson Jr. was the guy I thought was the most polished coming out, but he went top 10. Broderick Jones falling here instead of Darnell Wright, who the Bears took at like 11. I love it. I love it. I love it. If this dude doesn't pan out, it's a failure on the coaching staff because he's big, he's physical, he can move his feet, and if you put on the tape, Gingy, he's the best offensive lineman I've seen in college in a long time.
Yeah, Donkey, I freaking love it. Okay, first of all, yes, you mentioned this is the Omar Khan era. We have a new way of doing things here. We are not sitting back and waiting. We are making moves. Just a couple spots moving up, but definitely that nuanced draft day scenario playing out. We knew that the New York Jets wanted our guy, so we made the moves necessary to go up and get a position of need as well. So not only best available on the board, in my opinion, a major position in need, instant plug and play, should be playing in there. Instant starter, Donkey, I would say.
No doubt he needs to take over left tackle right now. No offense to Dan Moore Jr., but Dan Moore Jr. just doesn't have the attributes to be a left tackle. His attributes play better to right tackle, whether or not he can play there. I don't know. But I'm telling you right now, you got a guy who has a potential future cornerstone at left tackle. You plug and play him right away. And you tell Chuck's over there, and you tell Dan Moore, hey, there's two dogs, there's one bone. Go get it. And of course, I'm going to say that because Andy Weidel brought over the Philly way of apparently drafting Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, heck, we drafted one last year. We drafted two in this draft. You know what? It's like the old saying, when you want the best big physical guys, you go to the best college schools because you know they get the best recruits and the best players. That's what we're doing here. We see that. Right now it's Georgia a little over Alabama. And these guys are going to the pros and doing it well. I know there's a lot of people who are belly aching. We didn't take a cornerback with the first round pick, but I'm going to be honest with you, don't like corners in the first. But there's a couple things I want to talk about in the first round that happened elsewhere that was really strange. I'd like to get your thoughts on, Gingy. Before we move into the rest of the Steelers, that's quarterbacks going fast and early, even if they're not worth it. But Will Levis not going at all, which doesn't really surprise me. I mean, he's a 24-year-old who doesn't have the best tape. Sure, he can throw the ball out of the stadium, but neither here nor there. And two running backs getting taken in the top 12. Mind you, I don't think a running back got taken in the top 15 since Saquon Barkley some 4 or 5 years ago. Two of them in the top 12. And maybe Detroit reached on both picks here. They took Jamar Gibbs at 12, the second running back, and then they take Jack Campbell, a guy I saw mocked most everywhere as a mid-second round guy with the 18th pick. Any of those three first round things catch your fancy?
Yeah, you covered a lot of stuff there, Donkey. But first of all, Will Levis fallen. I heard that had to be that could have been a physical issue. I don't know. Lots of rumors out there. Did you hear anything about a toe on that? I heard about a toe. That
I didn't,
wasn't.
but any dude who puts mayonnaise in his coffee and eats a banana with the peel on, I don't want on my football team.
That's
That's all
questionable.
I'm going to say about
That's
that.
questionable. That's questionable character right there. That's enough for me as well. I did not know that. Look at quarterbacks are just a hot commodity, and the teams that picked one desperately needed one. Donkey, I will tell you that.
That is true. Gingy, should we
Yeah.
just call the NFC now the Conference of the Dwarfs? I mean, if you're 6 foot and under and a starting quarterback, you're going to be in the NFC. Although I guess they got rid of Russell Wilson and traded him to the AFC. But you have Bryce Young now down there in Carolina. You have Baker Mayfield at Tampa Bay. You got Jalen Hurts rocking it at Philly. And you got Kyler Murray down there in Arizona. Are short quarterbacks not allowed in the AFC? Is that like a rule? Because the AFC quarterback that gets taken in the first round is the dude who's like the biggest specimen I've ever seen. And Indy either got the best quarterback that's going to come out of this draft or the biggest bust because they decided to take a high potential Anthony Anderson. I think that's his first name. No, I think I just said the actor. Well, anyway, Anderson, the quarterback out of Florida. Wait, is it Anthony?
Richardson?
Richardson. That's it. I messed up the last name, not the first name. Let's go.
You got the first name, yeah.
I called him the actor. Sorry about that. Anthony Richardson. What is he like 6'4", 250, runs a 4.4, can throw the ball 80 yards probably on his butt. That dude is a freak. And I really hope he doesn't pan out because that could make Indy really good for a long time.
High risk, high reward pick there. Really wanted to mention, too, the Houston Texans, super aggressive, going 2, trading back up to 3. They really think they found their guys. Big offensive move, big defensive move, 2 big plug-and-play guys in there that are going to see some starting time right away. Donkey, what do you think about that? Houston back on the rails.
They should have been as aggressive as possible. I love what they did there because think of all the draft capital they had from all the trades they've made the past few years. Whether it's getting rid of star offensive linemen, whether it's getting rid of star defensive linemen. I mean, they've built it up. And here's the thing. A lot of these teams that build up draft capital just sit back and keep building it up, like New England. And that's why you're starting to see New England fall out is because they're not going out there and getting those game changers. They just keep building more capital, building more capital. At some point, you have to pull the trigger. That's why I like what the Steelers did. I really like what Houston did being aggressive, although I don't think C.J. Stroud's the pick there. Personally, I prefer Richardson over Stroud. So, I don't know. I just don't trust a guy like C.J. Stroud who you can see disappear in football games when every year he's surrounded by first-round wide receivers. Look at Ohio State. Look at all those receivers. Look at all the numbers they put up in the pros. And this dude never really was head and shoulders above. But I loved what the Texans did, getting if that's their guy, that's their guy. Pass rushes are huge. Gingy, this is what we've been talking about with the Steelers, and let's turn it back in there. And the Texans did it a little bit. You win football games at the line of scrimmage. The Steelers are starting to see that. The investment, signing 2 starters on the offensive line last year, drafting an offensive tackle this year in the first to be a starter, and signing Isaac Seumalo. Also, spending some capital, a 3rd rounder last year in Leal, a 2nd rounder this year in Benton. In the defensive line, building the trenches, Gingy. You got to love it. Let's talk about those 2 second rounders. You got Joey Porter Jr., you got Keanu Benton. Break down whichever one you want.
Addressing last time I spoke, Donkey, I spoke about the suspect Steelers defense, using the 2nd round to address 2 key areas of need there. Really, really happy about that.
And also,
I think I cannot go wrong with the pedigree. Joey Porter Jr., obviously, Big Pops, number 55, had quite a career in Pittsburgh. Top of the 2nd round, I think that's fair value, perhaps. We'll see how that guy turns out. just hesitant of Steelers drafting DBs. You know what I mean? We'll see.
Oh, I hear you all the way there. And talking about DBs, the Steelers also just signed a veteran defensive back who spent a lot of time in Green Bay and Minnesota. Spot starter here and there, slot guy in Shandon Sullivan. Interceptions in his career. Good guy to push the slot, whether it be Levi Wallace or Arthur Millette there in the slot. Good guy to push there. But let's get into Joey Porter Jr. 4.46 speed means he's going to struggle to cover a lot of these big, fast outside wide receivers one-on-one. That's where we're going to start. Doesn't mean the end of the world. You put on the tape, he reminds me of someone the Steelers should be used to. Ike Taylor. He's prone to get beat every now and then. He's good with the ball in the air, but he can't catch. The dude had one interception in 3 years starting at Penn State. The dude just can't catch. He reminds me of Ike Taylor. My biggest problem with Joey Porter Jr. as a first rounder, and I said this, is he doesn't have splash play potential. You can take that in the second round. I think 32 is a little bit high for him with some of the corners who are still on the board. You look at like Keely Ringo or a couple of the other guys, Moore from Michigan, the Blazer with the 4.26 speed. I think maybe 32 is a little too high. I'm not mad at the pick. I don't mind the pick. The pick is good here. We saw him mocked to the Steelers at 17, and I would have lost my mind at that one because that would have been a way overdraft. But you're talking about a guy who doesn't have elite speed, doesn't have elite ball skills. This is where he should fall. A guy who has good tape, but not great tape, obviously. This is where he should fall as a second round. Maybe 32 is a little high because you could claim, well, that's technically a first round pick, but I don't mind it here. And yes, I told my wife, and I texted you, I'm like, this is the Steeler, most Steeler thing ever. Which, by the way, we had another most Steeler thing ever later in the draft we'll get to. But a family legacy guy, of course, is going to come to the Steelers. I think he'll be a good player. I think Patrick Peterson's a good guy to teach him some stuff. And let's see how it goes, Gingy.
Absolutely. Here, here. Very excited about the next pick in the second round. Keanu Benton, tackle, Wisconsin, donkey. Rebuilding the trenches, like you said. This guy is maybe not be an automatic plug and play. I think a guy that, if proves himself, definitely sees some rotation time right away.
This guy is Aaron Smith. This guy is Aaron Smith through and through. A guy who, he could have a 10-sack season, but he's more there because you ain't going to run at him. He's a guy who's going to own his area, which is something the Steelers have really lacked recently, as guys who can own their area. With Cam Hayward getting up there in age, with Ogunjobi being injured, guys like Leal, guys like Keanu Benton are going to be huge. We talked about 32, and I told you if we stay here, one of the guys I wouldn't mind taking was Keanu Benton. Because you put on his tape, he is just a force. And he's big. He has the proper size, which we talked about. My biggest problem with Leal was he's about 10 pounds too small to be a Steelers defensive end. I guess we call him tackle. To be a Steelers tackle, defensive tackle. Benton's not. Benton's 300 pounds. Benton fits the build. He is everything the Steelers should want. And you're going to see a very common theme here. But this is another guy who was mocked to the Steelers at 17 by multiple people. So you're talking the Steelers get, in my opinion, the best tackle we were going to get there. I thought it was going to be right out of Tennessee, and I would have been okay with that. We instead go out and get Broderick Jones, the best first round I could get. And then we get Joey Porter Jr., who would have been my least favorite of first round picks, and Keanu Benton, who would have been okay, I'm fine with that pick in the first round. But my goodness gracious, with Mozzie Smith already off the board, with Brees off the board already, I can't believe Benton fell here. And you know what? Sometimes it takes a little luck to get the players you need. Weidel, Kahn, Tomlin got their luck here and got an absolute bruiser in Benton. I'm going to tell you, Gingy, the coaching staff isn't going to have very many excuses after this offseason.
Yeah, we're putting together a squad, donkey. That's how I like it. I like it so far. It continues from there.
I'm going to tell you something, Gingy. Does this feel like the Steelers are trying to throw it back? Albeit, we could call it the Philly style now, because Philly played a physical brand of football last year. Andy Weidel came over from there. But Andy Weidel seems to have that late 90s, early thousands Pittsburgh Steelers feel of building a football team, does he not? Omar Khan, by the way, you get a big shout out too because you were a part of this. But
Absolutely.
you getting a feeling the trenches are important. You getting a feeling tenacity is going to be a thing that's needed in these players going forward.
Yeah, you'll start, and you see that with the pick in round 3.
Oh, you want to talk about Darnell Washington, big bad tight end out of Georgia. Only 26 catches, a couple hundred yards, and 2 touchdowns last year. But you're talking with these new tight ends, you're seeing 6'4", 240, 6'5", 230. Nah, dude, Gingy, this is a throwback. 6'7", 264. And if you look at that man, you turn around and walk the other way if he says your name and you don't know who he is, because he is a scary-looking man, Gingy.
Absolutely. You're seeing this guy in the 2 tight end set pretty regularly, I bet, with Zach Gentry. And this is where you just get up and dominate the line of scrimmage. This is 3rd and 1. This is when you need to run the clock. This is how you control the pace of the game. And now you're setting up that, like you said, the power football. And I think that's how this guy's going to be utilized. And frankly, I think that's a great idea, him alongside on the other side of Gentry. I think that with the line that we're putting together, what it really comes is not you going to do it. I'd love to see a run
Gingy
game.
just throwing shade at Muth right now. That's all I'm gonna say.
Listen, Muth has his role. 1st down, 2nd down, 3rd and long. Muth is going to be in there. What he's shown is that he has earned his value as an offensive tight end, which I think him and Kenny, awesome production, definitely makes it worth it. But when you really need 3rd and 1, I will take Darnell Washington over Freiermuth.
No doubt about it. No, he runs a 4.64. He's fast enough. There's a lot of question about his knees, whether or not he might end up being one of those guys who has to redshirt a season like Calvin Austin did with his injury he got as a Steeler, but Washington might have to redshirt a year. But you're talking, again, another guy who was sometimes mocked as a late first-round talent, falling to the 3rd to the Steelers. Common theme here. It's a guy who you put on the tape. He hits hard. Is he a little out over himself? Yeah. Is he the best blocker? Not right now, but he gets the job done, gets trained up a little more, coached up. Who knows how high that ceiling can come as a blocker. And this physical tenacity of these first 2 picks, the dogs, let's just call them the dogs because that's what they are. Georgia Bulldogs, Broderick Jones, Washington. The Steelers struggled a lot in the red zone, Gingy, last year, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. And so in the past few.
You add a 6'7" guy who has good hands, but is a really good blocker. You add Broderick Jones, a really physical blocker. You bring in Isaac Seumalo, a big guy who pushes around. You bring in Nate Herbig to be another one of the guys who was brought in, offensive lineman, as a backup, maybe, potential starter, maybe, who knows. What I've noticed is a common theme here. I don't think the Steelers were happy not being able to move the ball in the red zone last year. I think this is a move to give Kenny Pickett the best opportunity to not have to be throwing the ball to 5'11" little dwarfs. Which, by the way, if you watch the draft, common theme, 5'11" and below wide receivers are the new hot commodity, Gingy.
Pass.
That they're supposed to catch those. But yeah, I agree. Pass on that. Now, let's get into the 4th round here. The Steelers keeping it in the family again, Gingy. We signed Nate Herbig, so we go out and we draft Nick Herbig, outside linebacker, edge rusher, whatever you want to call him, from Wisconsin. Only 240 pounds, a little undersized for outside linebacker. I heard some talk that he could move to middle linebacker. He's athletic enough to do that, but I don't know if I press that. Because last time I complained that I was like, man, I like this pick, but I wonder if he's big enough. And it was a guy who, let's be honest, was a little bigger here that goes by the name of TJ Watt. Ironically, Gingy, this guy plays the same position TJ Watt did in Nebraska. Do you want to know their stats, their senior or their last year in college?
What's that?
All right, one of them had 38 tackles, 38 tackles, 15 and a half tackles for loss, and I think 11 and a half sacks. The other one, we'll call him player B, had 40 3 tackles or something along there, 15 tackles for loss, and 11 sacks. Yeah, very similar numbers. Player A, of course, is our one and only TJ Watt, but player B is Nick Herbig. And you put on the tape, he is a small-looking dude. That's where I'm going to start. Compared to the other guys, he's a small-looking dude, but he gets around the tackles. He does a pretty good job. Definitely a position we've talked about the Steelers needing, whether he feels inside or outside, was depth at, was outside linebacker, middle linebacker. Definitely a spot. Either one he goes to, a position of need. I'm not going to lie, though. I would not be surprised to see him transition to middle. And he does. We had pretty good success with a first-round pick. We did that to about 15. Oh, my God, more than that. 20 years ago, maybe. And Lawrence Timmons, if you recall, is a guy drafted originally as outside linebacker, moved into middle, and just Law Dog was the man, Gingy. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if we could get some of that, channel some of that back here, that'd be great.
So, I like the pick. We get through 4 rounds. The Steelers are going to have a big break to the 7th round now. Go out there, do some good things. One thing I do want to point out is in the 3rd round, how we got back the 4th rounder we gave to New England was by trading out of a pick and then ending up with Washington. But there was still a guy out of Clemson named Trenton Simpson who was on the board that I thought would have been a great fill-in that middle linebacker spot. We trade back, and he ends up going 5 picks later to the Ravens. This is the one that makes me nervous. I'm going to put it out there so people can say, you didn't actually say that. This is the guy I'm really sad the Steelers didn't get, and it's more so because he ended up as a Raven, which was one of my biggest fears about it. Gingy,
yeah.
Any picks in these first 4 rounds where you're like, the Steelers should have went and got that guy, or did the Steelers get the guys you think they should have?
I'm on it. Steelers got the guys I think they should have. No complaints here, donkey.
That's fair. I'm going to run a couple more names by you. 7th round picks. Who knows what they're going to become? We got Corey Trice Jr., cornerback out of Purdue. He's Joey Porter Jr. without the name and the tape. 6'2", runs a 4.46. Played in the Big Ten. Decent enough stats. Again, struggled when he played better corners, better wide receivers, faster wide receivers. A little bit of struggle there. Obviously, the reason a guy like this falls. But you look at the measurables, you look at the numbers, it could be something there. I mean, Joey Porter Jr., due to the numbers, was a 2nd-round pick, potential 1st-rounder. You look at Corey Trice Jr., very similar measurables. Maybe, perhaps, the Steelers actually found a late-round gem in the defensive back position?
Boy, oh boy, if we can't draft him high, maybe we can draft him low. I don't know, donkey. Well, it's a position of need. We'll put anyone out. We'll give anyone a shot at that. We need some depth. We barely got a starting unit covered. We need some depth there.
You said, Gingy, but if you look at the team as it stands right now, the defensive back room is going to be one of the deepest out there. Akilla Witherspoon's still on the team, was a starter for us going into last year. We add Patrick Peterson. You still have Levi Wallace. You still have Arthur Millette. You still have he who shall not be named. Just kidding, James Pierre. You can have a name again. We still add Joey Porter Jr. You add the guy I just told you about earlier from the Vikings way of the Packers and Shandon Sullivan. You add in Trice Jr. here. There's a lot of guys out there fighting for this position right now. And a lot of guys, most of which come with at least some NFL starting pedigree. So who knows how that's going to end up.
Let's go, donkey. That's what we need. We need some consistency on that defense. We're building them up young. Right? A couple veteran guys in there, like you said, Patrick Peterson. Maintain that locker room. That's what we've talked about in the off season before, the post Ben era in that locker room. How Tomlin might have to coach a little bit differently with the different group of guys that he's got now. We're seeing the formulation of the new Steelers that we were talking about.
And finally, after 3 years of begging for it, we're adding veterans to rooms like the wide receiver room and Allen Robinson, the defensive back room and Patrick Peterson. So obviously you have Cam for the defensive line. Offensive line room, you got some veterans in there like Isaac Simualu. It's going to be a fun time out here in Pittsburgh, I hope. Which leads us, offensive line room, last pick, Spencer Anderson out of Maryland. He's played offensive tackle. He's played offensive guard. He's played center. Depending on who you read, they all tell you he's a different position on the line. Versatile guy, the type of guy who makes me think they really, really, really finally might admit Kendrick Green doesn't have it. He might finally not make this darn team. Instead of just being here without a helmet, Kendrick Green, I think your days are numbered. Not just because of the 7th round pick. Obviously, a lot more to it, but thank goodness is all I can say on that, Gingy. How about this guy? Green, he do anything for you? You have any idea anything about him? Because I certainly didn't, and I have not watched tape on him, so can't tell you anything.
I don't know anything for certain. Like, in the 7th rounder, I don't think you're ever really certain of what you're going to get. I'm sure that we see a guy with some sort of upside there. So, and you're right. It's definitely a position where there is some competition available for to have improvement.
Through that. Just so we're clear, not going to cover undrafted free agents today. Going to cover them next week probably, so I have something to talk about. And if you watched last year's undrafted free agent show, you'll know I love Mateo Durant and said I think he's going to be better than the other one that everyone loves, Jalen Warren. I've heard a lot of people talk good about him, but I think it's going to be Mateo Durant. Man, Gingy! I totally swung and missed on that one, huh?
Well, I don't know what to say, donkey.
that was a whiff for Rudy. Gingy, that's the draft. That's where we stand. Some other good teams maybe made some good plays. Quarterbacks actually got drafted sometime between the 1st and the 7th round this year, which is a rarity. Any particular pick that you think was the best or the worst, and any particular reason why?
That's a good question, Donkey. I'm really intrigued by the Houston Texans. They had to take a quarterback after last season. After all the picks that they accumulated, they had to take a guy this year. But then moving up directly after that and taking Will Anderson. That Will Anderson pick is interesting to me. I think defensive end, that type of position, is a real game changer in today's NFL. If you land that guy, that changes the whole scope of your defense. And they made an aggressive move to get the guy that they thought is going to be the future in that regard. So, Donkey, that's really intriguing to me. You can land a guy like Myles Garrett, Aaron Donald, and boom, franchise changes on that side of the ball. So, them being as aggressive as they were to move up that high to get that guy says something to me, and that'll be an interesting to see how that develops moving forward.
Yeah, totally there. I'm sorry, but I watched tape. I know he didn't perform too good in shorts, but I don't give a crap. Philadelphia getting Jalen Carter at 9 with the way pass rushers are at a premium right after they just lost Javon Hargrave to a huge contract in San Francisco. There is no way that Jalen Carter to me was not the best draft pick in the draft. You're talking a guy who was potential 1-2 overall before he does some dumb stuff kids do, was uninterested a little bit in his pro day, which you can understand with all the legal stuff going on, was maybe a little bit overweight. I think going there, getting to play beside Fletcher Cox, what a pick for them. And all I have to say is the Dogs were represented by Pennsylvania. I think the first 4 Dogs off the board went to Pennsylvania, whether it be Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. And personal note here, we'll go. I didn't think the Steelers made a bad pick in this whole draft. When you have 4 guys who are mocked at one point or another in the first round as your first 4 picks, don't think you can really go bad there. Broderick Jones, to me, though, the best Steelers pick. Moving up to get a guy who can be the franchise left tackle. We had talked about this for a long time, how the Steelers need a stalwart there. They tried to sign one, and Orlando Brown Jr. didn't work. Getting able to get up and get that guy, I loved it. I loved it. The aggressiveness, the way this team isn't sitting back and saying, Kenny Pickett's only in his second year. We want him to still develop. They straight up said, Kenny Pickett, Matt Canada, Mike Tomlin, ready up because we're building a winner today, and you all better be ready to carry it.
I'm excited, Donkey. I'm excited for the future, man. That was a good draft. If I'm grading it, Donkey, and I don't know, we've been doing this for a few years now. I give the Steelers an A on this draft.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've ever done that before.
Mine's an A minus just because I still not sold on cornerback at 32 because I thought you could have got better on 46. But the fact that we got the guy I wanted still shouldn't sway it. I give it an A minus though, which is the best Steelers draft I've had in a long time, unless you count my like A plus I gave last year because they got Kenny Pickett, but it wasn't like serious. It was just Kenny Pickett's the man.
We'll see. We will see. They're putting weapons around him. We will see if he's the man.
Well, he better be, or I'm gonna be sad.
You better be the man now. We're, like you said, Donkey, running out of excuses.
For sure. Gingy, any closing thoughts for you on Steelers news, or are we good to go to shout out or any other?
Hey, I feel really good about that. Might as well shout them out, Donkey. What do you got?
My shout out is every player who just got drafted by any team, specifically the Steelers player. Exciting time for all those NFL prospects. Anyone about to sign an undrafted free agent contract, do not give up because Jalen Warren says so. Also, though, special shout out. Don't know how close you follow baseball, but Drew Maggi for the Pirates got called up this week. 33-year-old guy, major league debut finally happens. Got sent down, but technically called right back up to play in the doubleheader because you get to bring an extra player, and gets his first big league hit. You gotta love the stories of perseverance, and this dude playing 13 years in the minor leagues before he appears in a big league game needs to get a special say from me. Gingy, shout outs from you.
That's awesome. Shout out to the new franchise players in the Steelers. Let's go, baby. Drafting class, Omar Khan, front office people. We are in the new era, baby. We are getting excited. Shout out. Man, I am really excited. That Donkey, the draft, that just got me even more excited for the season. I am ready to go.
4 months from now, I hope the excitement is still there, Gingy. Make sure you bottle that essence up and keep it for a rainy day.
You know it will be, Donkey. You know it will be.
I am the Viking Donkey. Viking _ Donkey on Twitch and Twitter. Your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger is the YouTube channel where you get to catch the fun. Nothing crazy this week because the Steelers drafted the way I thought was perfect. I don't know how to complain about it. I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm so confused. Gingy, please tell him something.
We are Mutant Gingy hanging out in the house. Oh man, Donkey and Daily Dose of Donkey with Ginger. Holy smokes. We are excited, Donkey. We are getting ready to roll. Steelers Nation, Donk Nation, wave them if you got them. Here we go, Steelers.